I had been hiking alone through the mountains, following a narrow trail until I noticed something strange near a cliff wall, a crack glowing with faint blue light. At first, I thought it was reflected lightning, but the closer I walked, the brighter it became. Curiosity won. I squeezed through the opening. Inside, the cave stretched downward into impossible silence. The walls shimmered like glass, and at the end stood a stone arch covered in symbols too small to read. As I stepped forward, the ground vanished. For a moment, I felt nothing. Then I crashed into soft grass. I stood up and realized something was wrong. Trees no taller than my knees surrounded me. Tiny rivers cut through miniature hills, and in the distance, cities. Entire cities. Thousands of tiny people scattered below. At first, I thought I had somehow become enormous. But when one of them appeared riding something like a horse and raised a spear no bigger than a toothpick, I realized the truth. I had discovered another world. A world filled with little people. The tiny rider stared up at me with wide eyes. Then he dropped to his knees. Within minutes, more arrived. Hundreds. They surrounded me in silence. One stepped forward wearing a crown of silver leaves and spoke in a language I couldn't understand. I shook my head. The crowned figure pointed at the sky, then pointed at me. The crowd bowed. I laughed nervously. Wait, no, I'm not. But they had already decided. To them, I wasn't a traveler. I was something from beyond the clouds. A god. At first I tried to correct them. I showed them I needed food. I sat beside them. I refused their offerings. But every ordinary thing I did looked miraculous. When I moved a fallen tree from their road, they called it a feat of impossible strength. When I lit a fire, they called it stolen sunlight. When I used my flashlight at night, they built temples. Days became weeks. I learned their language. Their world was divided into small kingdoms, constantly fighting over land and rivers. So I stepped in. I spoke to rulers, ended disputes, shared simple ideas, clean water systems, bridges, farming methods. Harvests doubled, disease faded, cities expanded. Every improvement became another legend. Stories spread. The giant beyond the sky, the hand that changes rivers, the one who walks above mountains. Eventually, delegations came from every corner of their world. They asked me impossible questions. Would the storms return? What happens after death? Why were they created? I didn't have answers. That frightened me, because gods were supposed to know. One evening, I climbed the tallest hill while thousands gathered below. I looked over the tiny world glowing under starlight, and I told them, I am not your creator. The crowd became silent. I found this place by accident. More silence. Then an old woman stepped forward. She smiled and she said, perhaps gods are not those who create worlds. Perhaps gods are those who choose what to do after finding them. I never forgot that. Years passed. Temples remained. Stories changed. They stopped worshiping me out of fear. Instead, they treated me as a guardian, not ruler, not creator,